Today on the show, we talk about new tech turnover, why over 60% are quitting in the first 2 years. We talk about Christian's weird fetish. And we play a game of Would You Rather, but this time I'm the one answering the questions. And Mia ranks dealership jobs from easiest to hardest. That and much, much more coming up on Service Drive Revolution! Hello, I'm Chris Collins, and this is Christian Lafferty. And we have our beautiful guest, Mia. Say hello to everybody, Mia.
Hello, hello.
That was a nice little princess
I kind of like that too. That's
pose.
good.
It's a go-to.
Mia, have you ever heard of weird fetishes?
I am an adult, so yes.
Stuff on the internet that maybe you don't want people to see in your browser history, maybe? Your buddy right here, Christian, is a victim of a weird fetish.
A victim, as in somebody fetishized you?
Kinda.
I'm not sure exactly where this is going yet, so sure, let's go with that.
Like, if you, what's the weirdest fetish? Like, without being like, you know, too
like keeping it
crazy.
PG-13.
Like, I think a weird fetish is feet, but people are super into feet.
Yeah. Furries. It's a weird one.
That is a weird one.
Yeah, that's super weird.
Yeah. Super weird, yeah. So he's a victim of feet. What do you call it? Feeders.
Feeders?
Did somebody sneak a photo of your feet when you weren't watching?
No, he's talking about feeding, right?
Yeah, where the fetish is that somebody wants to feed you so much that you gain weight and then you're only attractive to them? Is that how it is?
I think it's way more about like they think that if they feed you a lot and then you get bigger, then no one else will want you.
Yeah,
I actually think it's defense, it's not offense.
Are you insulting him?
No,
No,
we're
this
fine.
is clearly a real thing.
I know.
Like, for the longest time, like, he was, like, on a very strict, like, working out 2 times a day. You just be like, where's Christian? Oh, he's out lifting weights. Like, and now he's, like, eating tortas, flan.
Tamales.
Like, anything with a carb and fat and cheese. Right?
Yeah.
It's a lot of carbs.
I can't keep up with it. It doesn't matter how many miles a day I do on the Peloton.
Sounds like the dream, though. Really.
Like, it would be your dream that you would have a spouse or a significant other that would just feed you?
No, just
Plump
being
you
able
up?
to eat carbs all the time.
What is the fetish called? Plumper?
Yeah.
Plumper.
I hate
She's
that
a
word.
plumper.
It's such a weird word. I don't like it.
Plumper?
Yeah. It's like the word moist, you know? Just makes you kind of cringe a little bit.
You don't want to say anything about it? You're going with it?
Yeah.
You're into it?
I'll just ride with it. It's
At what point? 300 pounds, 400 pounds, when?
Well, I got a little ways to go before I get there. No, honestly, the second that if I feel like I have to buy other clothes, it's over. Like, I'm done. And then I will just go back to eating my salads and...
But you understand that that's going to have a huge ripple in your relationship because, like, you're with somebody whose joy comes from the pleasure of feeding you, and they feel like they're taking care of you.
She can still feed me. She's just going to feed me egg whites and spinach and not tamales and...
You know, in the movie My Big Fat Greek Wedding, when the girls, or they're like, oh, Mom, they're vegan. And she goes, oh, it's okay, I feed you lamb.
It's just like that, isn't it?
Yeah, there's going to be no egg
great.
whites and spinach. It's going to be covered in cheese, wrapped in a tamale, and deep fried.
Yeah.
So, all right, that's great. So let me tell you a story. So a couple of weeks ago, she makes me breakfast. And we do eggs and bacon and tortillas. And she's like, she hands it to me afterwards, and it's like this beautiful crispy tortilla. And she goes, baby, it's healthy. I cooked it in the bacon grease.
Yeah, exactly.
Swear to God.
I love it.
Oh,
It
man.
was so good.
Okay, so we're gonna play Would You Rather.
Ooh.
So this is a little thing that we've done, Mia, before. But Christian somehow he's trying to flip it, and he's gonna make me the victim of it. Where it's probably funnier when I do it to you, but we're gonna see what your would you rather is. But
You're the victim.
I'm
this
the
time.
victim.
He's the
of
answer
it.
person.
Okay.
So Chris, let's say that the world
Your
doesn't.
setup for would you rather is just like your setup for a joke.
Really? Is it my only setup? Is the same setup that I do for jokes?
It's your only personality trait.
So, yeah. All right. So if the world plays a funny joke on us and you have to change careers and you're forced into one of these 3 careers.
So I have to, do I have to get a job? Is that what we're saying?
Oh, yeah.
I have to get a job, and my only choice
3 choices.
are one of these 3.
Mm-hmm. Your first choice. You travel around and clean porta potties.
Travel around where?
Just let's say the greater Los Angeles area.
And what does it pay?
$13.86 an hour.
Do all these jobs pay the same?
Ironically, yes. Yeah.
So
It's
I'm
pretty-
basically minimum wage.
Yeah, you might be a buck or 2 over, but I don't know. Maybe if you do really good, you can get
I
promoted.
can move up? Mm-hmm. You can be the head porta potty cleaner
That's right.
thing?
You can just be the person that picks up the blue solution.
Okay,
And porta
so
potty
cleaning porta
revolution.
potties is,
Cleaning porta potties
option
is number 1. Next one is to be the fish scaler at Pike's Place.
It's Pike.
So
Place.
fish come
Pike
in,
Place.
I scale them, and then they're sold? Is that?
Yes, that's exactly right.
So that's a full-time job?
Full-time job. You're
Just
always
scaling
manning-
fish all day.
Scaling fish all day.
Okay.
Ugh.
Then it pays $13 an hour.
$13.86. Or the last one, you are in charge of the drum room at Guitar Center.
I mean, that's clearly the worst job.
Now, I don't know if everyone would agree with you, Chris. So
No,
you might want to
that's-
go into that.
No, that's like pure hell. Can you imagine being the drum guy at a Guitar Center? Like, you work in the drum department. Do you know what kids come in to test out the drums in the drum department in Guitar Center?
No.
That was a great dramatic pause.
Yeah, she
awesome.
was staring me down.
Yeah.
Kids that can't afford a drum set, that don't know how to play all day long. Just if you're ever bored driving around or something and you want to test out my theory, just call Guitar Center and ask for the drum department and then hear the racket in the background. Like, literally, they'll be like, drum department, and it's like pots and pans falling down a stairwell constantly all day long. And you're like, hello, drum department. What? All day long.
A constant sufferer from tinnitus and all that other stuff too,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
No, that's a version of hell that I think a lot of people haven't experienced.
Have you?
Well, yeah, because I was a drummer. I used to go in there all the time, and you can't even stand to be in there.
Yeah.
Let alone work there all day. Like, you just look at those guys, and it's like like when you see a girl with the guy sometimes, and she's like blinking, like, help, I've been kidnapped. That's what the guys behind the counter at Guitar Center look like. You're like, why are they
SOS.
blinking like that? And they're like,
Save me.
I don't need the 1386 that bad.
can you imagine? It's all like, anywhere between like 8-year-olds and 15-year-olds that can't afford a drum set, but they go in there and pretend like they're going to buy one all day and practice their rudiment, and it's just terrible. That stuff is meant to be practiced. You need to work out that terribleness in a basement somewhere that only your parents who brought you into this world have to suffer through. But the poor guy at Guitar Center,
Yeah.
it couldn't pay enough.
No.
I love the idea that these are my only 3 choices. Like, this is all I've accomplished in life.
Right.
But I would say that I would pick the Pike Place. I'd scale fish.
You get to be, close to your old home, kind of.
Yeah, I love the Pike Place Market. One of the best times in my life was when I lived 2 blocks from Pike Place.
Yeah.
I used to walk down there constantly and get food.
I don't know if I could deal with the permanent smell of fish on me all the time. I think that's what I have a tough time with.
You know what? You know what happens though? You get used to it. Pretty
Yeah.
soon you don't smell the fish.
I don't know, when I was a kid growing up in the country, like the pig farmers it never bothered them that they smelled like pigs.
No, you
Just bothered everybody else.
part of it.
Totally bothered me.
Yeah.
Okay, let's segue to this list Mia created. We don't know the list, but we know the title of the list, which is pretty funny. So, Mia, you're ranking dealership jobs hardest to easiest or easiest to hardest?
Easiest to hardest.
Easiest to hardest.
Yes.
So, which jobs in a dealership, this transcends all departments?
Yes.
So, detail, parts. Is there a body shop in this dealership?
No.
No body shop. F&I?
Kind of. I'm not including every single position. I'm just doing the top 10, I think. So the top 10 and then down to 1.
From easiest to hardest.
Yes.
Okay, what's number 10?
Number 10 is the owner.
So does that mean that's the easiest or the hardest?
Number 10 is the easiest, and so number 10 would be the owner.
Interesting.
Okay. Number 9?
Number 9 is the general manager. Do you see where I'm going with this? I think you know where I'm going with this. He's like, oh, great, here we go. Number 8, I have the sales
The owner's
manager.
It's 2 stages higher than the owner.
Wait, is the owner's idiot kid on there?
No.
No. Well, clearly this is a...
Owner's idiot kid is number 14, actually.
Owner's gardener comes next. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, number 8 is sales managers and finance.
Okay.
7, I have parts.
What part of parts?
The parts people.
Anyone in parts
Anyone
is
in
number
parts.
7.
Including the manager.
It's like when people say all guys with beards look the same.
All parts people. It doesn't matter, even
Well,
if
they
it's the
do all
manager.
answer the phone the same way.
They do. Parts.
Parts hold.
It's so true. Oh, man.
Parts hold.
Yep.
So you think that the parts manager is different than the guy in the back shipping receiving?
The poor guy schlepping cores.
Or the counter guy or the wholesale guy?
They're all the same.
They're all the same. In your eyes, they're all created equal.
They're all created equal.
This is
Okay.
great.
Keep in mind, this comes from personal experience, so got to keep that in mind. Okay,
Don't devaluate your list. This thing's solid. Run with it.
Yeah, you know what? You're right.
Yeah,
I'm
have
right. You're wrong.
confidence.
All of you are wrong.
It's a
Okay,
damn
I'm
fine
kidding.
list.
Number 5 is the service manager.
Okay. Wow. So the 5th easiest job,
5th hardest.
hardest, service manager. Okay.
Number 4, I have porters and shuttle drivers.
Just scoring at home. So being a porter or a shuttle driver is harder than being a service manager. Continue on.
I knew this was
will
gonna.
say,
I knew this was gonna upset you guys.
Are you trying to push people's buttons?
Yeah.
That's the purpose here?
I mean, it's
Little
honest.
Mia's little evil side?
Yeah, I am a Gemini.
And that means you have an
Dual.
evil side?
The Gemini symbol is a twin. It means you have dual personalities.
Does that mean I have another personality?
Do you really feel like you have a dual personality?
When I say dual personality, I don't mean that I am like 2 different people. It just means that I'm adaptable and I can be very nice or I can be not nice.
There's this, oh man, I wish I knew the name of it. There's this crazy documentary on, I think it's on Showtime, and this lady studied serial killers for a long time, like her life, I guess. And she shows how most of them have, as a protection mechanism. She says this thing that is crazy, and I think I told you this the other day, that the graphic nature of their crimes and murder has a direct correlation with their abuse as kids. Mm-hmm. And so she shows this one guy that murdered this couple and literally like took their body parts and was drawing on the wall or whatever, like just super graphic and crazy.
Yeah.
And you think in your head, like, how could this human ever do this? Mm-hmm. And then they show the guy, and he just kind of this unassuming guy. His back literally looks like a motocross track, and I think at 3 or 4, I might be getting that part wrong, but either way, his mom would throw boiling water on his back and whip him.
Oh my gosh.
Like over and over again, like the guy, and he had 2 personalities, and she would show her interviews how they would come in and out, and she could talk to the other one and summons.
Yeah.
And those personalities are for a protection mechanism, where the one is kind of protecting the real person. And then she shows at the end how Ted Bundy had it, but nobody else but her caught it. And one time in court, Ted Bundy flipped into the other one and nobody caught it, but she caught that because Bundy was abused by his grandfather or something in graphic ways. So that's what I thought of when you said split personalities, but that isn't what you mean.
I said dual personalities.
Dual
Yeah, split
personalities.
personality is different. Dual personality just means that I have an adaptable or adaptive personality.
So you can adapt to different situations?
Yes.
And is that like because you're a very like social, inviting, person. Is that a part of that?
Yeah.
Like more extrovert?
Yeah. I'm
Would
definitely
you consider
an
yourself an
extrovert.
extrovert? Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But
Okay,
at the
well,
same
go
time,
ahead with your dual
I
personality.
can flip that and scare people too. So there you have it. Number 4 was porters and shuttle drivers.
One more thing I want to say about
yes.
porters. Porters and shuttle drivers are the best source of information in the whole dealership. They know who doesn't call their customers back. They know who's sleeping with who. They know who's stealing. They know stuff that nobody else knows.
They are the word on the street.
They know.
Yep. Like
Especially a shuttle driver.
Oh, especially because the customers are probably venting to the shuttle driver. So the shuttle driver
Yeah, they're like,
knows,
like, how long have you worked there, Mia? And you're like, oh, I've been here a couple of years. Is it normal for the service advisor to ask me to pay cash up front to get my car fixed?
And then to not mention anything?
Yeah.
Is this weird?
Shouldn't there have been paperwork?
Right? Is it weird to not get a receipt when I give cash
Yeah.
or something?
we underestimate.
They only take cash.
And you have to put it in my pocket. I don't want to touch it.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, number 3, lube techs.
So now, did you catch what she's doing?
No.
So she is looking at us to see what kind of response we're going to give
yeah,
her
I
when
caught
she
that.
says the ridiculous things. I mean, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say
So this
ridiculous.
list is meant to provoke.
Yeah.
It is, but it's honest too. Like I genuinely do feel this
So
way.
this is really how you would classify
Yes.
everything?
So
Okay, that's
we're saying that a lube tech, and by lube tech, we're assuming we're not talking about a 50-year-old lube tech. We're talking about a early 20-year-old kid on the lube rack has a harder job. It's harder. It's more pressure, more stress than a dealer or a general manager.
And
Or
I will
service
get to
manager.
why, because there is a common denominator between all of these, which you're probably already kind of picking up that, but I will get to it. And you'll probably still disagree, but that's okay. That's okay.
You know, we're talking a lot about psychology and the mental part of this and everything like that. I've actually got a joke out there for all my mind readers.
You can't just tell that you're gonna.
Yes, I can.
Okay.
I'm doing it right now.
That's really creepy.
For those listening, he's just staring into the camera. You know, a lot of people just listen to the show, Christian.
Yeah, but they know the silence. The mind readers hear it. It's not silent to them. Continue on, Mia.
Can we recap? Dealer, general manager.
Sales managers in finance, parts, salespeople, service manager, porters and shuttle drivers. Number 3 is lube techs. Number 2, this is where it's getting real spicy. This is where it's really gonna rile people up.
You're going to say shop foreman?
No, he's not on the list.
Oh.
Well, I guess he could kind of be looped into number 2. Number 2 is technicians.
Okay.
And could we guess what number 1 might be?
It's gonna be service advisor.
Number 1 is service advisors.
To the man with a hammer, the world is a nail.
Sure. Exactly. So the reason that my list is the way that it is because in my mind, the less you have to deal with customers, the easier your job is. And I know that sounds super pessimistic and like negative towards the customer, but I feel like a lot of people underestimate how difficult that can be. I think that is the hardest part of any job, is customer service.
Man, for the longest time, I have thought that the hardest job in a dealership is a salesperson.
Why?
Because they start off with, they're 100% commission. They don't have built-in traffic. They have to go, a good salesperson has to go out and create business. They're always working 7 days a week. They're there until 11, depending on the store. They don't have weekends. I mean, it's not the kind of job where you raise a family in a normal way. Like in service, we have some degree of normalcy. It's rare that service advisors work 6 days a week every week, but salespeople literally, unless the state mandates that they're closed on Sunday, they could be working 7 days a week constantly in commission.
Mm-hmm.
I thought being an advisor was harder than being a salesperson. But I don't think either job's easy.
And that's the thing. I'm not saying any of it's easy. It's just what's easier. But back to the whole salesperson mindset, it just goes back to experience. Because every dealership I've worked at, advisors always work 6 days a week. From open to close. So 12-hour days, 6 days a week, which is really difficult. So working, and it was even longer than 12 hours. I was used to 6:30 to 7 o'clock at night. 6:30 a.m. to 7 o'clock at night or later if I had to close the shop.
Yeah, but for the most part, that's not the norm. And
man, I really just had a really negative experience these past 10 years.
Most sales people are just getting started when people are getting off work. And so it's not uncommon for a salesperson to be there until 11.
Yep, especially if you got a deal. So the good thing about being a salesperson is that, so at the place that I worked, we closed at 9. I was super happy to take the person that came in at 8:55 because they were leaving with a car in most cases.
Right.
But by golly, you could be there from 9 a.m. to 8:55 and do nothing that was productive. And if you don't put in that last 3 hours after closing, like you walked home with nothing. I think that now,
that's difficult.
Yeah, pay-wise, I feel like salesperson's the hardest job because like it is absolutely what have you done for me lately. As a service advisor, there's a little more stability to the pay thing.
I agree
but man,
with
I
that.
saw so many salespeople do that zero to hero thing where they would have like a 15 or 18 car month and then they would sell 3 the next month. And like they're trying to figure out how they're going to pay their mortgage. So that part of it's pretty stressful. I would personally put the salespeople higher on the list than they are, but I still do think I'm with you on the advisor thing. It was pretty hard.
I didn't really take pay into consideration, and I know it seems like that because I think the farther down the list, the less they get paid. Well, not really. Techs and service advisors, make more than some of the other people.
More than porters.
Sometimes too, these lists aren't. It's not really fair because it's a different kind of stress. Like I can tell you, when the first dealership that I owned that was mine, in the beginning things were really, really rough. And I literally had to put payroll on my Amex. And when you have 100 employees and you don't have the cash to make payroll, that's a stress and a feeling, especially when you care about the people that work for you, that I don't think any advisor or salesperson could ever endure that sort of stress. Like imagine you need $150,000 to make payroll and you only have 50. Like it's a different kind of stress. So I think it's all kind of relative, right?
It is.
These lists are fun, but at the end of the day,
it is relative. But it also, once again, depends on your experience. Because my experience of owners has been the complete opposite, where they're filthy loaded and they don't care about the dealership at all, and they never even show their face. Sometimes you don't even know what they look like because they never even check in. You know what I mean? So it all just depends on what you've experienced.
That's exactly the kind of gig I want.
I know.
I want to own a bunch of dealerships and nobody knows what I look like.
But you should also know what's going on with your dealership. And if you
Cameras.
don't,
Just cameras everywhere.
not like visually.
I love sitting with dealers when they on their laptop. You're like, what are you doing? You on Facebook? Like, looking at dirty pictures, and they're like, no.
They have
got all the
75
cameras
different
up.
cameras. They're controlling drones.
Like, oh, what the worst.
I don't know. I
Okay.
just my opinion.
Thank you for doing the list. I thought that was very fun.
See how many people I upset with that
We
one.
learned some things about you.
Thanks.
You're a
As he rolls
Gemini.
his eyes.
He didn't roll.
And then she pointed at her tattoo on her finger like that.
Which one's that?
The duel.
It's the Gemini
It's like a
symbol.
two.
It sure is.
Yeah.
There was this article in automotive news that was sent to me that kind of sparked the idea of turnover for new technicians is usually about 60%. So in the first 2 years, depending on the car line, etc., the drive, but on average, it's about 60% of new techs coming in an environment where we're losing 2 technicians for every new one coming in. 60% of them will leave within the first 2 years.
It's really sad.
It's a terrible batting average, right? And so this article in Automotive News, it's a couple weeks ago now, new school solution for recruiting auto techs. And they're talking about how Magic Toyota in Edmonds, Washington, kind of close to you,
My neck of the woods, yeah.
Edmonds, Washington, hired their own full-time trainer. So they were moving into a building and they were going from 28 bays to 54, and they needed to hire techs, and they found that just hiring the traditional way wasn't effective, and they were just either stealing from the competition or, trying to hire techs that weren't really committed to it. So they hired their own in-house trainer. They're giving the technicians $8,000 in tools up front. They lease them back from the dealership for $25 a week for 4 years, at which point they own them. If they leave, or they own them for a cost of $5,200. If they leave, the tools go back to the dealership. They also created a thing where if they upsold specific items like cabin filters, wiper blades, alignments, tires, they would give them the $25 a week towards our tools was forgiven.
Oh.
That's really clever.
Yeah, right. I thought that was probably the most clever part of it altogether. So when we talk about the turnover, why do we think that kids that decide, hey, I want to be a technician, and then a couple years later don't want to be a technician anymore? What is causing that? Because there is some sort of commitment to it. You don't decide you want to be a technician most of the time and then change your mind just because. Something has to be causing it to that degree, right?
Yeah. I would say it's probably boils down to false expectations when they actually go into the workforce, whether they are leaving school, like a vocational school, or any sort of training. Maybe they're being promised something that they're not getting.
What do you think, Christone?
I think that really what we fail is to give our technicians coming in 2 things. One is the career path. Like, we're not telling them, okay, so you're coming in, you're going to start for 3 months, you're going to do this type of work. From 3 to 6 months, you're going to do this type of work, and they get to see the progression and everything like that.
Telling them this at like the vocational school level?
Yeah, whatever we need to. Well, I think that the vocational schools and the dealers have to get on the same page for sure, or independent repair shops for that matter too. So it's the same either way. But the vocational schools and then the end user has to be telling the same story. My belief is right now they're not on the same page, and they have to really, really work together. Because I think that as an industry, we have to recognize is that we need to do something to attract people in. I love what you said about that, dealers, because the first thing that kind of came into my mind was that's a lot like a scholarship. Right? Now, in the state of Illinois back in the 90s, just to kind of give you an idea, they had a real shortage of special education teachers. So what they did is they offered scholarships where if you went to school and you got a degree in special education and then you worked for 2 years afterwards, they paid for your whole school. They forgave the whole thing, and that's what that made me think of. And then all of a sudden, what happened in the state of Illinois, they didn't have as many special education deficiencies in teachers. So this is a very similar program to that. And then the other thing that I think that we don't do a good enough job with the people coming into the industry is we don't give them that sense of like what do they contribute? Like how do they belong? What's the purpose for them doing what they do? Like they're part of something special, and we don't even tell them that. So I think those are the things that are missing.
Yeah, I think most indicators would say that at the service drive level, the top reason why those kids are disenchanted is because they don't see a career path. So I think quick lubes are the biggest contributor to this, because we have seen a change in the turnover by putting the technicians in the shop with the regular techs and pairing them up with like a mentor, right? Because if you come into a quick lube and all you're doing is oil changes all day for a couple years, you're never doing breaks, you're never learning anything, you never see a path for advancement, you get disenchanted, right? So how we set up quick lubes, we need to take into consideration the career path of the kids we're putting into the quick lube, right?
Yeah.
How do they see it? If they come in every day and they're doing this, do they see a future, or does this feel like a dead end? Does it feel impossible, right? Yeah. And there's a lot of decisions that have to be made there about investing in tools and, going flat rate and those sort of things, which they're looking at the other techs and they're thinking, oh, that's unobtainable, or that they're miserable, so why would I want to do that? There's probably a lot of things that play into that. The second one is the boss. Like most of the time they feel like their boss doesn't genuinely show interest in them or care about them. And I think a lot of times we have a generational gap there. Oh, yeah. So we're going to have a baby boomer is a manager with a Gen Z? Or millennial, one of the two. And the baby boomer, that older manager, is managing those kids like they were managed. But unfortunately, things have progressed to the degree that doesn't work anymore. You have to manage them from their perspective, and you have to learn some new tricks. You have to become a better leader and spend more time and understand them, because to some degree they might come off as entitled, but you also might be misreading what entitlement is to them, right? What they expect from an employer to you in your generation in time was entitlement. To them, it's just showing up. So there's a gap there that I think as leaders, we have to close that gap. They're not developed enough to do that on their own. We have to get them to care before we can get them to learn, right? So we have to show genuine interest in them. We have to spend time with them. We have to understand their wants and needs. And so that's a big part of it, is the leader. And money is lower on the scale. Usually money is about 4.
It's funny because everybody thinks that's the number one, but it's not.
It never is.
No. No, and what's crazy is they can make a lot of money being a tech. They're just not shown the path and they don't believe it, right? Yeah. And so they're sold this bag of goods going into school, and they think it's one thing and it ends up being something else when they get out. They show up at the dealership, and then you have this baby boomer manager, treating you like you're entitled and just get to work, and you don't know what you're talking about, kid. And they're used to being told that they're great at everything and they always win and they always get a prize.
Yeah, they're special no matter what.
And so the more we tell them they're not special isn't doing us any good. We have to understand them and why they want to feel special and how they feel special. And then we got to harness that into mentoring them into becoming adults, right? Taking boys and making them men, or girls and making them women in that scenario. But most of the time, we're just pushing them back into their little rabbit hole.
Like a sit down, shut up kind of mentality.
Yeah, and get to the quick lube. And so then, you have your least talented people touching the most customers in a quick lube, which is a recipe for disaster every time. And I don't understand why we're so committed to that model when you can achieve the customer experience that we want without running everything through these young kids and just burning them out. Because burnout is another thing. Like they're making a very low wage, killing themselves, and they can't see themselves doing this the rest of their life. Yeah. We have to slow it down and kind of have a more strategic approach.
Yeah,
I think it's hard.
You guys agree with that?
Yeah, 100%.
You know, we were talking a little bit about crazy people, like about why you smiling already? About like Bundy and everything
Wait,
like that.
you can tell he's smiling? How can you tell?
Oh yeah, his eyes.
Oh, just the squinty eyes. He just okay. Sorry.
So yeah, did you hear about that lunatic that won the Tour de France?
No.
He took the psychopath.
I shouldn't have taken a drink at that.
Oh, I almost got you.
You almost got me. Oh. That was my fault. I shouldn't have taken a drink. I knew it was coming too, right?
What did we learn today? So dealers have the hardest job. We got to learn how to understand our millennials and our Gen Zs. We got to create a career path for them. Mm-hmm. And that I would rather scale fish than work in the drum department at Guitar Center. But I would wish that on my enemies.
Ouch.
Good to know.
Yeah, it would be great. Thanks, you guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next time on Service Drive Revolution. Thanks so much for watching this episode of Service Drive Revolution. We're uploading new stuff every day, so make sure you subscribe and click the bell icon so you don't miss out. If you have a question you'd like us to answer on the show, call 8333-ASK-SDR and we'll answer your question on the show. That's 8333-ASK-SDR. For special deals on our books and training, head over to offers.chriscollinsinc.com. Now that's offers.chriscollinsinc.com. I'm Chris Collins, and I'll see you in the next video.